They're all freeloaders. Nobody has a single ounce of initiative or drive for a better life. If this was my family, I would fake my own death. That's what I would do for Bill. I would fake my own death and go to the States because Bill does not deserve this.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat The Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I'm one of your hosts, Ash, and alongside me is my co-host tonight, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Lyons has the week off. Each week, we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we've covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit chatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide for you, the audience, the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you've not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all the information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. Finally, to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch. We play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. Now, with all of that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing today?
Ash, tonight I'm very excited. We're going to a place that we've been to 4 times before. For one of our great listeners, Muriel, we are going to the land of road warriors, drag queens, white supremacists, and crocodile hunters, and that can only be one place. We are going down under to the wonderful country of Australia to review the 1994 comedy, Muriel's Wedding.
Well, and Mary wrote in and said, "Hi, Shat Crew. Mary from Maryland here, finally sending you my review of Muriel's Wedding. I watched Muriel's Wedding on a 14-hour flight from LA to Sydney in November 1994 when my husband and I were on the trip of a lifetime to Australia. The movies that the airline offered were all Australian, I guess, along with about 6 types of Aussie beers on board to get you in the mood for the place, and it worked. I was only in my early 30s then and really not at all familiar with popular movies from anywhere other than Hollywood. I found it unbelievably cringy. So cringy that I'd forgotten much of the whole thing was about, except that Aussies seemed to have a weird fascination with Abba. Borbus Spit is a perfect name for a bummer of a seaside town, and that catfight at the karaoke contest was hilarious, but I couldn't take my eyes off Toni Collette. The scene where Muriel, is walking down the aisle in that weird confection of a dress to Abba's I do, etc. was so funny that I burst out laughing in the middle of the plane and got some nasty looks from other passengers. I guess other people were trying to sleep. I've come to really appreciate the movie in the ensuing years as I've gotten considerably older, having seen it about 2 or 3 more times and paying more attention to what was actually going on in the story. It's a brutal film in so many ways, and what unsophisticated me thought was cringy actually is a more realistic view of life. The characters here are real, fatter, not as glamorous, and much more damaged than they would be if they were in Hollywood's hands. The lessons are tough, but the end is no less uplifting when Muriel learns to accept herself. And it's better than what Hollywood surely would have given us. I was an early watcher, but a late lover of this film, and I can't wait to hear what you all think. Thanks so much, Mario.
So it's a given. This was not a film that was designed with me as their target audience. So I'm going to try to step back. I've been a little harsh in some of your films before. I'm going to be objective. I'm not going to be as hard, but this movie is not nearly what I expected. And just like when Roger and I reviewed Pretty Woman, I don't know that this movie is what everybody seems to remember it. It seems to be a lot darker, but I'm going to give it a chance, Ash. I'm going to, as we go forward, I'm going to hold final judgment until the end.
Yeah, I told you before we recorded, I have been looking forward all day to our arguing over this film because I cannot wait for you to finally see like my side about why this movie is such a good one.
Well, if you can do that, you should be a lawyer.
Well,
because I doubt you're going to get me to your side.
Maybe I will be.
Okay, we'll see.
Well, Muriel's Wedding is a 1994 Australian comedy written and directed by P.J. Hogan. The film, which stars Toni Collette, Rachel Griffiths, Jeannie Drynan, Sophie Lee, and Bill Hunter, focuses on the socially awkward Muriel, whose ambition is to have a glamorous wedding and improve her personal life by moving from her dead-end hometown, the fictional Porpoise Spit, to Sydney. The film premiered at the 1994 Toronto International Film Festival to positive reviews and earned multiple award nominations, including a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy for Toni Collette. So before we begin, we always take the time to ask ourselves, where were you? What were you doing? What were you like? And what are your memories of the first time you saw this movie? So Big D, we'll start with you. What is the first time you saw Muriel's Wedding?
So it was obviously for this review. It was for Mary. This is the first time. But you've been gushing about this film for so long and lobbying, please, somebody commission it. And I'm thinking this must be a glorious film. So I'm coming in. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little hesitant. And I go to find it on my favorite streaming service, and it immediately clicks. I said, oh my God, I do know what this is. This is that Juliette Lewis movie where she plays this disabled, mentally challenged woman, the other sister. And the family's having a wedding, and she's having some breakdown, adjusting to life. No, very different wedding movie. This was not the other sister, but at the same point, like I kind of hinted at before, the story of a disabled woman and the sister's wedding and her struggling, that's a dark story, but I think Muriel's Wedding, as we get into it, it's not just that I'm not the target audience. This is a dark, sad, depressing tale of mental illness disguised as a Australian comedy. But for me, first time I've seen it, and a second time, I think I'd probably rather watch The Other Sister.
So I think we've got to redefine our definition of genres here, right? And maybe it's me. Maybe like, Taylor Swift says, I'm the problem. It's me, right? Because romance to me, my favorite love story. Let's play this game. Big D, favorite love story.
Father of the Bride. I don't know what just came to mind. The love between a father
like a love
and daughter.
Story, like a romance story.
I don't know.
That makes you all wiggly in your pants.
None pops in my mind, but I mean, young, I liked all the stupid ones, like the Pretty in Pink or the stories about the Breakfast Club.
So like stuff. Traditional romancy films where people end up in love.
It's always the I think the Ugly Duckling or the guy who was nerdy kind of.
Then it was not Pretty in Pink for you, but
Can't Buy Me Love, something like that.
Okay. So, but traditional romance. So for me, my favorite love story of all time is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is about how we all end up alone anyway and hate each other, but like it's nice that we love each other enough to try again, right? So like that's love stories for me. So comedy for me sometimes has a little bit of darkness and cynicism. So I don't think that you're off the mark when we start to get into this movie, that this is a dark comedy. It's not like a yuck Ace Ventura type comedy, which I do like that. It's very dark and very cynical. And for me, this movie has a special place in like my own personal history. So I saw this for the first time my freshman year of high school. I had just been literally like weeks before had been diagnosed with Graves' disease. And I had gained 40 pounds in like 8 weeks, thanks to the meds that they put me on. So here I am, a 14-year-old, 5'2". So 40 pounds on me might as well be 100. And my self-esteem is like fucking nil. And all of a sudden my friends weren't nice to me. All of a sudden neither was my mom. And this was like this weird moment where I had about 2 to 3 months and then my eating disorder would like generate itself and like rear its ugly head. And I would have a journey over the next 10 years of just like insanity. So I saw this movie at this time that was like this big turning point in my life. And here's this girl, here's Muriel, so uncomfortable in her own skin that like I got every feeling that she was feeling. And yeah, she's crazy in parts. And I wasn't crazy yet because I was still a kid, but I felt like this comfort in this story and this portrayal of like this very realistic person, like Mary, our commissioner, talks about in Toni Collette. And since that moment and since connecting with her and her story, like I have loved everything about this movie and about how it speaks to people, whether they're 14 or they're 40, and they don't look like everybody around them and feel really shitty about themselves.
It all makes sense now. It makes 100% sense. Your connection to this film is the way it made you feel at that moment. You were not alone. You were not the only person in the world feeling this way.
And I still feel that way when I watch it.
Completely get it, because you're that 14-year-old girl.
Right. Well, I'm not 40 pounds overweight and 14, just diagnosed with Graves' disease and about to become anorexic, but I am still a woman and a human that has lots of self-confidence issues, as we all do. And so I still relate to Muriel, and I'm excited about revisiting her tonight, which means be nice, sir. Be nice.
I will. I'm going to be nice to 14-year-old Ash.
But be
I don't
nice
want to be mean
and
to you.
honest. So also be honest.
Oh, I'm always going to be. But I'm going to be sympathetic.
Right. Well, let's head on down to Porpoise Spit and let's hit that trailer.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named
Muriel.
Muriel.
Are you Muriel Heslop? No.
all she ever dreamed about was getting married.
Looks like I'm next.
There was only one thing missing. A groom.
No one's ever gonna marry you. You've never even had a boyfriend.
Muriel's on the dole.
You never wear the right clothes.
You mental case! You keep away from us!
But before she can find a future,
I'm going to be a success, Mum. I'm going to get married and I'm going to be a success.
she has to find herself.
You are wicked. Well, stick with me because I'm wicked too.
Rhonda changed my life.
She would.
Oh, by the way, I'm not alone. I'm with Muriel.
Now, the girl she used to be has changed.
I've got one.
Well, it's a start.
We just want to know you're all right, love.
Into the woman she always was.
Muriel, are you all right?
You're terrible, Muriel. This is my new life. I'm a new person.
Miramax Films invites you to celebrate the most unexpected event of the year. Muriel's wedding.
Muriel, you're beautiful.
Muriel Heslop, a socially awkward young woman, is the target of ridicule by her shallow and egotistical friends Tanya, Cheryl, Janine, and Nicole. She spends her time listening to Abba songs and perpetually daydreams of a glamorous wedding to get her out of the dead-end beach town of Porpoise Spit and also away from her domineering father Bill, a corrupt politician who constantly belittles both his wife Betty and their 5 children. Muriel attends the wedding of Tanya and Chuck, during which she sees Chuck and Nicole having sex in a laundry room. Wedding guest Diane, a department store detective, calls the police on Muriel for stealing the dress she is wearing, and the police publicly escort Muriel out of the reception. So I've already mentioned that Toni Collette is starring in this film. But guys, if you know Toni Collette now, like the Hereditary Toni Collette, the, Little Miss Sunshine Toni Collette, this is not that Toni Collette. This is pre-Hollywood, very, very early Toni. And let's just get it out in the open, Big D. She's clearly had a glow up since getting more into Hollywood films. Because here, she does not look like a movie star. She looks like basically a lot of people in the real world. Her skin is not perfect. It gets red at weird times. She's about 15, 20 pounds overweight. Her hair's the wrong color. Her teeth are not perfect. They're not all white. And I love this about this film from the beginning, because even the pretty girls, like the Tanyas, the Nicoles, all of them, like the ones that are supposed to be like the hot girls here in Porpoise Spit, even them, they're not like hot, like Hollywood hot. They're like pretty girl hot from your high school. The way the sets look, the way the houses look so incredibly like lived in. At times, it almost feels like this is more of like a documentary than it is like a movie based off of those things. And so much of that is because of the realness that Toni Collette brings from the opening scene. And I just think she's incredible.
I get everything you're saying. She seems like a regular person. She's not polished. She's awkward. But I kept getting like an Australian Melissa McCarthy vibe from her, to where it's not just that she's stumbling around and she's a little slovenly dressed and she's mumbling and bumbling. And it's just, to me, she just seems like she's just self-deprecating. She's just making fun of herself in an awkward, weird way. It was like Melissa McCarthy climbing on the sink with lava coming out of her ass for Bridesmaids. That was the vibe I got from her, to where she was just yucking it up constantly.
See, I get such a different vibe from her at the start of this. I think the second we see Muriel, we've got to remember when this is set. So this is set in the early 90s. And Muriel from the get-go in this clearly is the coolest person in the room, but doesn't realize it. She's got that insane dress. Her lipstick's the wrong color, but at least she's going for it. Her hair is super funky. Her shoes are fantastic. Like, she does not know how cool she is. And that's what feels so real about it, is she feels like she's wrong and she should be like these other people, when like really she's the only one in the room that has any semblance of like style at all.
I don't know. We're going to get into it. I think she's just like the other people in the room, but the only thing she does that I really could latch onto was the Abba. Like the music. Yeah. We've done, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Abba is huge in it. So I'm thinking Australians, enough to put Abba music as a major plot point in these movies. I'm thinking Australians have to love the greatest Swedish rock band of all time. But it turned out they were just popular around the world, well beyond what I ever knew as just a normal American. My mother's Swedish, so we'd go visit Stockholm periodically. And last year, Emma, Vanessa, and I went with my sister and her husband, and we took the trip. Gene said it was like, going to Mecca for Muslims. This was, as a Swede, you had to go to the museum. And I never realized they take you on the full tour, like mapping out their career. You get to do some karaoke in like a session booth. You get to test your knowledge. You get to see the Abba style. There is no doubt that this band at the time was more than just like the synth bubbly pop. The songs are infectious. I found myself food prepping on Sunday and just jamming out to Abba. It is almost impossible to be pissed off and listen to this music.
Yeah, I agree. This is not usually my vibe for music at all, especially stuff that's this bubbly, but there's something about them. And I think it's like indicative of where you see, for example, what happened like with the Mamma Mia musical, the fact that they were able to take all these ABBA songs that tell these stories of like a person's whole like lifetime. I think there's something special about music that can do that. And I think it's the perfect soundtrack for a film like this, because while it is dark in parts, like the ABBA like totally balances that out. And then you see the depth of some of the, more like serene or more, sad songs like The Winner Takes It All, or even when you get that great scene that we'll get to in a minute where they're singing Waterloo, like at the karaoke. Like, I can't imagine another song that would have fit better in that scene than that one does. And it makes sense that somebody like Muriel, she's retro in that way, because this is the 90s. So this is like 20 years before that they're making a lot of this music. And so for her, this is like funky. It's retro that she's into it. And the other thing that Muriel is obsessed with, let's go ahead and talk about it. It's, in the title, Muriel's Wedding, right? The woman is obsessed with weddings. And this rings very true for me. I have friends that from junior high, they just wanted to be brides. It's like literally all that they wanted, all that they were interested in. They just wanted to be married. And I never quite got it. Like, yes, it is nice to fall in love. Absolutely. But the wedding part always felt really overwhelming for me. So me personally, when I got married, we had a very small wedding that was very us, but it made sense for it to be little. And I think that's part of the problem for people like Muriel, like my friends from junior high, is that they think marriage is a fairy tale because of the day that the wedding happens. They don't realize that marriage actually is fucking stupid hard work. Like, it's an incredibly difficult thing to sustain and be a part of. And the wedding is nice, but the rest is like hella complicated. And that's like Muriel here. She wants the wedding, but not the marriage. And I think the filmmakers are doing this to show us how out of touch she is with reality and any semblance of what the real world is like.
I think it's sad that you say people like this, and I can't relate to it all. The fact that I could say, if you want to dream about love, I want to find the love of my life, the person who completes me, the person I could just sit next to and not talk and we'd be perfect match. To me, that's a universal dream for somebody to find the person who they can just ride or die with, But the idea of, hey, I just want the wedding. You're setting yourself up for failure. And there's no surprise that most people get divorced if the apex of your dream is a ceremony and a party with your friends. Because like you said, shit gets real after that.
Oh, yeah.
But in the 90s, the 2000s, even today, the comedies, when we go back to like guys and girls, guys always have one dream. The guys are dreaming to get laid. They follow the girls around. They're going to do everything. To me, that's a natural goal. It's a primal genetic urge. It's a drive to reproduce. But the idea that your sole goal in life is to get a guy, not because you love him or he makes you happy, but so you could have a big ceremony where you're front and center, to me, that is shallow and it is sad.
I think, though, you got to think about the time period right here, because I'm in junior high a couple of years after this, like 96, 97, I'm in junior high. And that's when my friends are starting to become obsessed with this. And there's this thing that's being sold in the late 80s into the 90s that's continued to today, where it's this idea of like, it's the day you're the most beautiful, and it's the day that's all about you, and you've become this woman that's accomplished because someone wants to spend the rest of their life with you. And it's part of like this whole idea about like making girls think that their worth comes from a man wanting to be with them in this like heteronormative relationship. And it's super pathetic.
But with a title like Muriel's Wedding, I'm assuming this is going to be a love story. That it's going to be a story where Muriel is going to find herself. She's going to blossom. She starts off like the ugly duckling. And I'm excited when we get that opening bouquet flying through the air with the sound of like a bomb, and she kind of boxes people out. She gets it. I'm like, great. This is going to be an awkward character. She's going to have her moment. She's going to blossom. We're going to find out, yes, she's kind of flawed and she's bumbling, but she's got a great heart, or maybe she's got some hidden talent that's gonna come out of her. Instead, Muriel, she is not held back by her friends. She is just like them, but she is not on their same level. She wants to be just like them. She does things that just aren't even like not positive traits. She does things that are downright reprehensible as the film goes on. And she starts off here. You can't be a good friend without being a good friend. She walks downstairs. She's unloved. She hasn't gone on a date. She walks in and sees Tanya getting banged on the washing machine by Chook. The cheating is right there. You want to be a good friend. You turn around, you walk and you tell her. I know you're going to make her sad, but if it's about friendship and connections, you could do that. Instead, she is self-centered from the first moment to the last moment. She doesn't care who she hurts. She has no remorse. She has issues, and I'm going to lay a case here that she is a sociopath.
Man, you just don't get Muriel. I mean, here's the deal. I wouldn't have told that Tanya and Chook are fucking in the laundry room. I wouldn't have said a fucking thing about that. I'm not going to be the one that spreads that shit on a wedding day.
Yeah, but you're not the one who spread that shit on top of the washing machine. She's the guilty one.
Who's the guilty one?
Who's the guilty one? The guilty one is Chook and Tanya, not you. But
you're going to be blamed.
Guess what? You leave a fucking note.
You don't leave a note. You cannot leave a note. You cannot write, hey, your man just got fucking busy in the laundry room. Like, you're never going to believe a note like that.
So that's why you tell him.
No, I don't tell him. 100%. Sorry, friends out there. Your husband's getting fucked in the laundry room. You're going to have to find out for yourself. And she does, because he's got lipstick on his dick. So it all works out.
If I catch Sarah with King B at Gene's wedding, I'm telling him.
Right. Well, I mean, that's different because it's King B, and we're like, Sarah, what the fuck are you doing? Right.
I definitely
King
would watch.
B versus Gene. I mean, I would definitely watch too. It'd be like a train wreck.
No, it would be like that Leonardo DiCaprio movie he won the Academy Award for.
Yeah.
Where he gets mauled by a bear. That's what it would look like.
But Sarah's Leonardo
like
DiCaprio. She's Leonardo DiCaprio. Just crawl inside his body. It's fine.
Yeah, play dead. King B will walk off.
3 bumps and he's done. Soon after, Bill's rumored mistress, Deidre Chambers, recruits Muriel into her multi-level marketing business, and Muriel's friends officially kick her out of the group after clarifying that she won't be accompanying them on an island holiday. Betty signs a blank check for Muriel to buy products for the cosmetics business, but Muriel instead uses the check to withdraw $12,000 and follow her former friends to the island anyway. There, Muriel runs into Rhonda Eppenstall, an old high school acquaintance, and they quickly stripe up a friendship cemented when Rhonda gleefully tells Tanya about Nicole and Chuck. Muriel returns home and is confronted by Betty regarding the stolen money. Muriel immediately runs away to Sydney, sharing a flat with Rhonda and changing her name to Mariel. She gets a job at a video store, meets and briefly dates an awkward but kind man, Bryce Nobes.
So I'm going to set the scene here because I'm going to assume that most of our listeners who have clicked on this episode have not watched this film. So I've already said that I thought Muriel's kind of a lost cause, but I'm going to just kind of show where she comes from and her family. So she is a member of a family, and every single person in this house, in this family, is damaged, majorly damaged. Betty, the mom, she definitely has something degenerative going on. She's mentally challenged. And it's beyond just the broken marriage. Bill is a dick of a husband. Yes, he's a dick of a dad. But for the movie to put the blame on him, I think it's a cop-out. Yeah, he's mean, he's condescending, but he is not abusive. There has to be some self-accountability for every member of this family, except for Betty, because Betty, again, is sick. Bill doesn't hit anyone. He doesn't abuse anyone. He's not a drunk. He's an asshole, yes, but he tries to prop the family up. He puts his kids through school. Everybody gives him the opportunity. Muriel, he puts her through a $2,000 secretary course, and she just can't pass or come out typing. It's not his fault. He gives his kids every opportunity, and all they do is nothing. They all they're sitting around eating lead paint chips. The son, all he asks him to do, it isn't go to college or get a job. It's cut the grass. They're all freeloaders. Nobody has a single ounce of initiative or drive for a better life. If this was my family, I would fake my own death. That's what I would do for Bill. I would fake my own death and go to the States because Bill does not deserve this.
Oh my God, Bill is the villain of this story. We do not, repeat with me, we do not feel badly for Bill. Audience, we do not feel badly for Bill. He is an emotionally abusive, manipulative, gaslighting motherfucker. He is horrible. Betty is not mentally challenged beyond her broken marriage. She is so beaten down and so abused over years. She's very similar to Allison Janney's character in American Beauty. She just can't really exist in the world anymore. And these kids have had a mother who's absolutely silenced and a dad who is this corrupt, lying asshole of a politician.
To me, if dad is so oppressive and so domineering, when he comes in and lights them up and makes fun of them and says, hey, you guys don't do shit, they just sit there and go, oh, come on, Dad, let's watch some rugby. Oh, let's watch some cricket. They don't even get off the couch. There's no fear. There's nothing. They're doing what they want.
They're so used to it. They're used to being beaten down in that way. And this is where the movie begins to get more complex. So there's this opening shot when they show the house for the first time from that living room area. So Muriel has come back. She's stolen this money. And they pan around and show this living room, which I had alluded to at the beginning, is so lived in. It looks like so many middle class homes that have junk drawers that explode just into clutter of the house, all the shit that you buy that you don't really need. And that's what it looks like in there. And you feel so sad for them because they're all trapped in this weird little life that Bill is, trying to get his own way out of. He wants out, not because of his family, but because he's an asshole. I don't love him.
Oh, I'm not saying he's a hero. He's not wearing a cape.
You said he deserves better.
He does. He does. He does. Listen to me. If his family wasn't such a bunch of just degenerate, lazy freeloaders, he wouldn't have to be that way. He'd be off, making. He'd be off making Porpoise a better place.
He would be off getting arrested still for stealing money because he's absolutely morally just insanely corrupt.
No, he wouldn't get caught because he'd remain focused.
Oh my God.
He gets caught because he's distracted.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I guess Deidre's a better option for him with her cosmetics. Well, let's leave Muriel's family for a second and let's go. We've talked about Toni Collette. Let's talk about Rachel Griffiths. I love Rachel Griffiths. My favorite television show of all time, other than Buffy, is 6 Feet Under. And Rachel Griffiths plays a character on that show, Brenda Chenoweth, who is incredible, but she's a very divisive character. Brenda is kind of a terrible person, so it's always weird seeing her in roles where she isn't a terrible person. And she's so good in this movie, and she's young and she's pretty, and it's crazy to think of like the career that both Rachel Griffiths and Toni Collette would have, because there are these two powerful actresses that would come out of Australia, and seeing like greatness before the greatness happens is always really kind of neat.
Yeah, and you said before that Muriel is the one who gets it. She's the coolest person in the room. Wrong. It is Rhonda 100%. She is great. She is strong. She confronts the bullies of her youth. She says it like it is. She doesn't care about her flaws. I liked her a lot. I really did. And we get here. You talked about the Waterloo karaoke. The entire Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, the whole movie is supposed to build up to this legendary karaoke version that they're going to do out in the desert. And do you want to see it? We're going to do it. We're going to do it. That's the whole build up. And it was just fizzled for us. It was low energy. It wasn't fabulous. Yes, it was drag, but I like my drag to be over the top. That's got to be, and everybody's drag should be over the top. This karaoke is so spot on, so funny, and they pair it with an all-girl fist fight at this club. It is absolutely fantastic. And Ash, you in the block here, you read, they've moved now to Sydney. She's getting her life in gear. She actually has a job for the first time. Bravo, Muriel. Bravo. She's working at a video store. And this dude comes in, Bryce. He's a sweet guy. He comes in. He's come into the store so many times. She offers him like this rewards card. And I'm thinking, here it is. Here comes the wedding. We are meeting Muriel's match. We are meeting the guy who's equally flawed. He's kind of quirky. They're going to bring each other out of their shells. This is going to be what's going to happen. No. It just turns out that Muriel doesn't care about him. She's above him. She's going to use him as a way to get Rhonda and her out of the club to meet other guys. They go back to the apartment, and Rhonda's finally in there. She's getting busy with some American sailors, and we see Bryce is fumbling around. They're going to get busy. I think this is going to be the moment where they're awkwardly both going to admit they're virgins. They're going to fumble around. Instead, basically, this Rube Goldberg beanbag situation happens to where he thinks he's unzipping her skirt. He's actually unzipping a beanbag. The beanbags go on the floor. Same time, Rhonda comes out. Muriel screams. Rhonda falls on the floor, paralyzed. Muriel now thinks it's funny. She starts cackling. The two sailors come out, see Bryce. They assume that he has sexually assaulted Muriel. They start to rough him up, grab him. Oh, you think you're going to do that? Throw him against the wall. They're physically about to beat his ass. Does Muriel stop and say, oh my God, my friend's on the floor in pain, can't move her legs. Oh my God, Bryce, this sweet guy who just took me on a date, is now getting accosted, getting beat up by two fucking sailors. She sits there laughing with this stupid look on her face. She does not care. It's so bad. Poor Bryce. He got lucky. He dodged a huge bullet by getting Muriel out of his life. Spoiler alert.
Okay, so I will agree with you. Muriel's reaction to this shows how immature she is. You see insanity. I see immaturity. She is a woman who probably has not had a whole lot of sexual experiences, and clearly she doesn't know how to handle this at all. And also, the leather shit she's wearing is just obscene. And it is really funny when he unzips the beanbag couch instead of her pants. Like, that's hilarious. But to understand Rhonda here, though, we've got to go back to when these two, like, first meet. Because the love story of this movie, because don't get it, mixed up here. This is a love story, but it is a platonic love story between Muriel and Rhonda. And we have all had that friend that we made after high school that makes us feel grown up and like okay with who we are as a person. Like, they're cool because they're so fucking confident. They know who they are. And like, there's something really disarming and like charming about that. And they make us better people because of it. And so that's Rhonda. As you said, she is one of the coolest people in any room. And I love when they perform Waterloo because yes, we get this great fist fight, But Muriel's so nervous in the beginning, but she becomes more confident as it progresses. And that's how we get her to a place where she's able to be in Sydney, where she's able to get Bryce there, to get men around her. And look at how much better she looks. Like, this is starting to look more like a normal human being than what we get in Porpoise Spit.
I am going to hold you to this. I'm going to put your feet to the fire. The relationship between Rhonda and Muriel is a love story.
It is.
You just said it's a love story.
It is. Doesn't mean it's not complicated.
I'm going to hold you to it.
One night, Rhonda suddenly falls down, apparently paralyzed. While at the hospital, Muriel calls home and learns her father is being investigated for taking bribes. Rhonda has a cancerous tumor in her spine and undergoes multiple operations, eventually leaving her permanently unable to walk. Muriel promises Rhonda to look after her and never let her go back to Porpoise Spit. She also uses Rhonda's health crisis to obtain pampered service at numerous bridal shops, trying on wedding dresses and taking photographs to indulge her wedding dreams. When Rhonda discovers what Muriel has done, Muriel finally confesses to her fixation on a storybook wedding, and they have an angry fight.
Okay, so I want to let that block sink into our listeners. I've been a little bit hysterical the way I'm describing Muriel. So I'm going to try to take this one a little slower. I'm now out in front of the jury. I'm in front of the court. So I'm going to lay out the case for you, okay? Muriel, besides the fact that she does things that are dickish, what concerns me the most is that there is a lack of empathy or any kind of emotional consideration for anyone else. We see Muriel alone. We should be able to see that she's upset or the impact that her decisions make on her. She's an adult. There is no cop-out at this point. Mom is going through a bad marriage. She's whatever has caused her deterioration in the way that she's living her life. You know she's not right. Your mother has a diminished capacity, regardless of what's caused it. Do you choose to support your mom who's raised you and loved you and held the family together? No. She chooses to steal $12,000 from the family. And not only that, but she uses the mother as the method to steal it. She gets the mother to give her the $12,000. She knows the mother's going to suffer. She knows the dad's going to come down harder on her. Is this for a big reason? Oh, it's going to help her relocate to Sydney. No, it's so she can go on a vacation holiday, blow the $12,000 on partying and clothes. She doesn't care. There's not one moment of remorse that we see she has that her mother has suffered. She never says sorry. She goes out and she plays dress up all around town for her wedding fantasy, wastes the time of every single salesperson out there, lays out this whole delusional story about having a spring wedding, and she's wasting their time. Her love, it's a love story, Ash. Her love is paralyzed. And what does she do? She goes out and plays dress up instead of spending time with her. She does not feel bad. She does not care, as long as it doesn't interfere with her delusional fantasy.
So, point of order to the jury. Couple things here. When
Don't
you were
object.
when you were growing up, did you ever do anything that you knew would hurt your parents, but you did it anyway?
Yeah, but then I felt bad.
Right. So how do you know she doesn't feel bad?
Because she never has a pensive moment.
Right,
She
but
never
you don't know
once.
that. You're not living in her head. And we get that moment where she's with the guy at the end, spoiler alert, with David. And clearly she is, feeling horrible about what's happened to her mom. And as far as Rhonda goes, I don't think it is that she doesn't care about Rhonda. I think she genuinely doesn't know how to handle what is happening to Rhonda, and she is distracting herself, and now albeit in a fucked up way, but I think it's her way of just being delusional and in denial about how serious it is, because the movie takes a really quick turn here into some dark shit. Because yes, on its face, it's supposed to be a comedy, but the second Rhonda collapses in that corner and her cancer comes in, it throws everything into chaos. And I think it's very real to see how someone deals with becoming the caretaker all of a sudden and how it changes relationship dynamics. There are super interesting studies out there about the way the caretaker deals with the pressure of being the caretaker and how they often resent the ones they're caring about, or they do crazy things to distract them from being the caretaker. And yes, I think Muriel's example is a little bit much, but I think it's possible. As someone who has been a very extensive caregiver at different times in my marriage to my husband, when he was in heart failure, when he relapsed, I resented the fuck out of him, and I spent a shit ton of money just to piss him off, which makes no sense. sense. And on its face looks really fucked up because he was in fucking heart failure, but I did it anyway. And this kind of shit happens. And I think she's desperate. She's alone. And the way she deals with it, it makes sense for her character.
You don't get to call yourself a caretaker unless you take care of someone.
She does for a while.
Hold on.
She does.
For a while. Listen to me.
You don't know how long that's supposed to be. It's not like it goes like 1 month has passed. 2 months have passed.
She says, I won't let your mother take you back home. I promise you, I'll take care of you. That's more than a month. Because within that time span, we see her go to work. Does she stay at work? No, she goes off on her fantasy. She answers the ad about getting married. It's a fake marriage. It's not even love. And what does she do immediately? She breaks every promise, every oath she has given her. I promise I'll stay with you. Oh, no, you're going to go back home? Okay. Did you hear I'm getting married? She doesn't care. She cares when it's convenient. And you can see the devastation in Rhonda's eyes when she realizes, holy shit, everything she told me about loving me and caring for me and we'd be together in a team and you'd have my back, that lasted as long as it was convenient for Muriel until she had an opportunity to fake marriage. And then she ships her off to the only place in the world that she knows Rhonda will be miserable and unhappy is back home. And she doesn't care. She's not a caregiver. Not a caregiver.
I think she does. I just think she's in denial, much like how people like want to call people back. They feel so anxious about it. They can't. Like, I think it's the same thing here. I don't think she's mentally ill. I don't.
She's in denial about being a caregiver is what she's in denial.
She's in denial about like her fucking life for sure. But
yes.
Well, desperate, Muriel enters into a conspiracy to marry South African swimmer David Van Arkel so that he can join Team Australia in the upcoming Olympics. She is paid $10,000 by David's parents for her part in the scheme. At Muriel's elaborate wedding in Sydney, she shows off Tanya, Cheryl, and Janine as her bridesmaids. Rhonda, disgusted by Muriel's behavior, refuses to be one. Bill openly treats Deidre as his date, and Betty arrives late to the wedding due to being unable to afford plane tickets. Muriel doesn't notice her at the wedding, and Rhonda moves back to her mother's home, unable to live in Sydney without help. After the wedding, David makes his contempt for Muriel clear, and Porpoise Spit and increasingly distraught Betty shoplifts a pair of sandals she tries on, and Diane calls the police. Bill arranges for the charges to disappear. Soon after, Betty pleads with Bill, telling him that she needs help. He announces his intention to divorce her and marry Deidre. Betty is later found dead by daughter Joni. Deidre claims Betty had a heart attack, but Joni reveals to Muriel that Betty's death was suicide. All right, so we're going to get into some dark shit here with Muriel's mom. But before we do, let's talk about what I think is arguably one of the funniest parts of this movie, which is when Muriel goes to meet David for the first time. The looks that this actor playing David is giving her are hilarious. Glorious. He is so disgusted. She is so oblivious to what he's looking at her like. It's some of the most amazing comedy in this film. And what I think is hilarious for Muriel is she is lacking 100% in self-awareness. Like 100% doesn't get it, including like what she should charge. Like, sure, $10K is nice, but if I'm going to marry a dude, like I'm asking for more. Like start at $100K. But unfortunately, Muriel only cares about the wedding, not how she could, in a very smart way, bank on this.
Oh, Muriel should have said, hey, I'll do it for free as long as I can have sex with David. David's hot. He's got a swimmer's body. He looks good. He's all oiled up. And he is sitting there terrified. The camera, you see him over the shoulder. And Muriel, you're thinking she's going to hold it together. She's going to be able to pretend that she's stable. She's not psychotic. And she can't do it. As the coach is talking about what's required, she is just cackling and sticking her tongue out of her mouth. She starts smoking. He's an Olympic athlete. The thing you don't want to do probably in front of him is smoke while he's training. David is right to be totally concerned, and he gives every other option. We should pick everyone else. I'll do anything. Let me take the brunette. Let me take anyone. And they don't, because she's not stable enough to pull this wedding off. And I'm speaking from somebody, Ash, I'm going to be able to use my personal experience here. I have known more than one marriage of convenience. You said $100,000 is your starting point. In my life, I have known multiple people who have gotten married for U.S. citizenship. And traditionally, it starts at about $10,000. You get 50% up front, And then you get 50% at the interview. That's at the end of, I forget how many years it is now. I had to do it with Vanessa. And going through the process, it is absolutely fantastic. So you have to be married. So the people who fake it just either stay together or they have an address where things are shipped. They file jointly the whole thing. And as long as everybody does what they're supposed to at the end, you get a divorce after 4 years. The person has now citizenship. Everybody's, whatever your personal take on it is, they're no worse for the wear, right? Government got the taxes. Everybody's good. But in the meeting, the way they do it is they will ask you the most ordinary questions. So if they said, Ash, what kind of shampoo does Tom use? I expect you would know, but most couples wouldn't. What kind of
Why
toothpaste?
would you expect I would know?
I just picture you're the one who does all the shopping and you'd be detail
How
oriented.
do you not know what kind of shampoo your partner uses?
I have no idea. There's so many damn bottles in the shower. I don't even know what's conditioner, what's shampoo. There's like 40 different kinds in there. It's like 30 people live in our house. I could not tell you. The toothpaste I could. And I realized at the end that the way they get you is it's not necessarily how many you get right. It's the fact that you get so many right. That when people answer all the questions correct, or most of them, you know that they've practiced. That's a fabricated story. When Vanessa and I went, they pull you apart and they'll be like, okay, what is her favorite this? And I'd be like, shit, I don't know. They'd be like, what kind of a pasta does she like? I'm like, I don't know. And of course we passed. We were really married. But the fact is they look for people to have their answers together. And I think that Muriel coming down at the end in an interview, her answers would be so far off and so wild and not match David's at all that they would assume this marriage was correct. They would assume David had just come to his senses and said, I got to get away from this woman. And this was not a sham wedding.
I had never thought about that like when you're lying, you're trying too hard. Mm-hmm. So like you're going to make sure you have an answer for like everything.
Yeah. What's a favorite sitcom? What TV show do you guys watch on Tuesdays? If you come, it's like when you're kids, Ash. If you say to your kids, tell me what happened, and they give you a full detailed rundown, very specific. You know
that there's something wrong.
You know they're lying. Correct.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Well, obviously, the most tragic character in this movie, can we agree, is Muriel's mom?
1,000%.
Okay. So, you know, when she asks if Muriel would hurt her by stealing the money, my heart breaks for her because she stands up there and she goes, you wouldn't do that, right? Like, you would know how badly this would hurt me. And then we find out that the corrupt asshole dad is leaving her and your heart breaks again. And I think the tragedy of so much of this movie is the horrible things that happen sometimes to women and how only other women can support them and get them through it. And that's certainly true of how Muriel survives by finding Rhonda. And I just wanted Muriel to do the same for her mom. Like, I wanted there to be this is the one critique I have. And of course, it wouldn't be sad if we had this, but I wish we could have a rewrite where like Muriel like dresses her mom up and like takes her out on the town or does something to bring some joy to her in such a joyless life. But that doesn't happen. And the mom has this really tragic ending and it's awful. And again, I think though, this is why this is considered to be such a great film, because it's surprising that in a movie that's so silly in parts that it has like this layered storyline to it as it moves on, where the mother starts as kind of this bumbling character herself and you don't know if she's going to be the butt of the joke, and she winds up being like the biggest gut punch of the entire film.
You're right, Ash. It was tough. I was suffering. And I wish that Muriel had taken her mom on the town, had taken her out and just made her feel special. But you know, she doesn't, because she doesn't care. That would take compassion. I kept expecting that Muriel was going to have some redemption. Something's going to happen. She's going to see David, who's dedicated his life to actually winning something, a gold medal. And she realizes maybe that her goal of getting married, which isn't an achievement at all to a guy who doesn't love her, it's going to have some kind of awakening and she's going to change and snap her out of her delusion. That doesn't happen. There's no chance. She doesn't make her mom feel better. She doesn't care about what's happened. The mom is suffering alone in silence, and it is painful. And so we get to the wedding scene. Ash, she doesn't not only even just like not care to make her feel better, she ignores her own mother at the wedding. She doesn't help her get a flight. She knows that the parents of David have money. She could have flown her mother out there. Instead, mother shows up and the mother feels even more alone sitting in the back. Muriel then takes Rhonda in her wheelchair and pushes her off to the side of the ceremony so she doesn't get in the way. And then the final dagger in the heart for Rhonda. Mom is out there alone. Rhonda's depressed, smoking on the side. And she says, Muriel, you promised you wouldn't leave me. My mom's here. She's taking me home. She goes, she's not going to go home on a bus. I bought you a plane ticket. And she smiles. Muriel is a psychopath.
No, again, I just think she's in denial. I
In
don't
denial
think
of
she's
what?
crazy. I think she's in denial for what her life is and what she wants and
Hold
how
on.
unhappy she is.
It's not about Muriel. What
It is, though.
When does she show compassion? To her
I think
paralyzed friend or her depressed mother?
But she does, though. I mean, the ending is her redemption, right? Like the end of this movie, because she has this awakening with David here in a moment after her mom's funeral. From there in, like she grows up and she does have an awakening.
Yeah, that's a great choice of words. Wait, and I hope people don't turn this off if I'm being too hostile. It's just really Muriel. I feel bad for the mom.
Hostile.
The poor mom. She's the victim. Poor
No,
Beth.
the mom is for sure. And I think that's really, really, really intentional. I do. I think that you're picking up on something that's really intentional, and it's so big that it drives Muriel's, inability to be like an ostrich. She can't just stick her head in the sand anymore.
I mean,
sure.
she'll eventually at some point realize she is the one who caused her mother's death.
And I think she does. I think she definitely does. Well, when Muriel breaks down at her mother's funeral, David comforts her, and they finally consummate their marriage.
David, mom's funeral, comforts her.
Well, lots of people have sex after funerals. Her mother's death forces Muriel to take a hard look at her life, and she tells David that she can no longer remain married to him as neither of them are in love, and she wants to stop lying. Bill asks Muriel to help raise her siblings, as Deirdre is less likely to marry him with the children in tow. He has also lost his job on the city council. Muriel stands up to him, giving him $5,000 of her wedding money and telling him she will repay the rest of the stolen amount when she gets a job in Sydney. Impressing her father with her more assertive personality, Muriel demands that he stop his verbally abusive treatment of her siblings. Muriel goes to Rhonda's house, where Muriel's former tormentors are visiting, and offers to take her back to Sydney. Rhonda accepts and lets the other girls know what she thinks of them. Muriel and Rhonda head to the airport, happily leaving Porpoise Spit behind for a more promising future.
Okay, so before I get to, David consoling her, I want to start this off with this fictional town of Porpoise Spit. The way it's described and the way that the girls feel about this town, you would have thought this was the Ozarks of Missouri in Winter Bones with Jennifer Lawrence. You would think this is the most desolate, dark place where just all opportunity fades, where the sun never shines. Porpoise Spit seems like a great place to grow up. It is beautiful. It's slightly metropolitan.
Oh my God.
Listen, as they're going out of town, they describe, hey, goodbye high rises, goodbye beautiful beach, goodbye surfers, goodbye buildings, goodbye houses.
They do not say bye beautiful beach.
They do. They say, yeah, that's essentially what they're saying.
Oh God.
So basically they're saying goodbye opportunity, goodbye happy place to grow up, goodbye wonderful safe streets. This isn't rural Missouri or Mississippi. And this gets me to the point. This should have been a horror film, and I don't know how it's a comedy. Your only friend gets paralyzed. Your mother kills herself. Dad is hiding evidence from the police. The entire family doesn't really seem to care. You make this into a horror film with some slight music changes, and what you do is you flip it around. Let's follow Muriel the whole time from her perspective, where we believe the story she's saying. She's getting married. She's in love. This is a wonderful story. Only at the end do we realize everything we've been watching is a lie. It's like a Sixth Sense thing, to where she is crazy, the mother's crazy, and the mother's illness is the trigger, the catalyst that causes this, because this should have been a dark film. There is no positive outcome. Muriel's mom has killed herself because of Muriel. Does she have a moment of guilt? David kisses her. She fucks David right after mom is put in the ground. Nothing she does after that can undo that. She goes and chooses to have sex while her mother's funeral is the freshest thing in her mind. That is reprehensible. There's nothing you can say denial.
Disagree.
Sorry.
And you know who else disagrees with you? Science. Because in the ever just important responsibility we have on this podcast, I read your notes, good sir, and went and did some research. Yeah. And scientists have proven that often, very often, people have sex immediately after loss. There are lots of people who lose a spouse and immediately have sex afterwards. People lose a parent, immediately have sex afterwards. And even one scientist says, yes, grief can make you horny. Why? Because when the body becomes broken and that dopamine just like zeroes out, there is a physical like need to bring it back up. And the body knows that one of the ways to boost dopamine is by doing what? Having sex. So I think it is completely normal that Muriel has sex after her mother's funeral. I think that that is totally normal. Now, I will say this to you, right?
Like, it's her first time. Her body doesn't know. This is her second knows. This is the first time. Knows. She chooses to get deflowered after her mom's funeral. So every time she thinks about, hey, Muriel, what was the first time like? Oh, it was great. You know, mom had just overdosed and dad was burying the evidence and the police came and, oh, but David's dick. Oh, so great.
Spoiler alert, 99% of women's first time suck. So I feel like this is just a normal, like losing your virginity story as a woman. So it's fine. Totally fine.
Oh, God.
First time sucks.
You're in denial. You're in more denial.
I'm not in denial. I'm just honest.
I'm saying denial about this movie. I don't care about the first time.
No, because you know what this movie is remembered as? It is remembered as a feminist film. And let's talk about why. The end of this movie shows that in the end, often women are only saved by other women in their life. And like it's platonic love that's the most valued by Rhonda and Muriel. And I think that it's this nice, happy ending that you aren't expecting at all. And it always makes me emotional at the end of this film when they're saying goodbye and Rhonda's leaving and she's so happy because real friendships that turn into family are like super rare, but they're really amazing and they define our lives. And this is a love story, again, granted a platonic love story where Muriel wants like that sexual love, that romantic love, that marriage. And in the end, all she wants is her best friend. And I think it's amazing. And I have to tell you, I still fucking love this film.
Hold on, you said she saved Rhonda.
She does.
She abandoned Rhonda.
She makes it right.
So listen to me. So let's just say I'm a dad, right? And I abandon my kids for 5-6 years, right? And then I pop back up on the doorstep. Hey, kids, daddy's home. Let's go. Am I a savior? Did I save the kids?
Well, let's be honest here.
Does that undo my
Rhonda's mom. She's not her mom.
But she abandoned her.
She does not do her right, but she makes things right in the end. And Rhonda decides to forgive her, and Rhonda deserves that.
So you don't think that she's going to abandon her again when she really falls in love?
I don't. I think she grows up.
Oh, you're crazy. This is
right
going to happen
in,
again.
ladies and gentlemen. Right in,
it's going to happen
again.
Who's
it's going
to happen again?
Jury of our peers, Shat listeners.
No,
who's right? Big D.
No, she'll probably end up killing Rhonda and then collecting her dole checks.
Yeah, that's absolutely how this
because it's not
ends.
the first time she's stolen from someone who she supposedly loved.
You crazy. Well, at this point in the podcast, we get together and we figure out our wipe scores. 5 wipes is losing the use of your legs, having cancer surgery, never being able to walk again, and having your best friend abandon you in a cheap seaside town.
Yes.
And 0 wipes is being deflowered by a beautiful South African swimmer named David. Oof. So, Big D, we will start with you. What is your wipe score? I'm believing it's going to be good for Muriel's wedding.
Well, I think you're in denial as well. I'm going to start off by listing all the things that I really liked.
Okay.
I thought that Toni Collette, great. Rachel Griffin, good. The cast as a whole, I think, were good. I think David's hot toned dolphin smooth body was great. Abba, every time this movie had me feeling like I was in a dark hole, like I was in the well with Buffalo Bill putting the lotion in the basket, Abba would come on and it would pull me out of my dark hole. It was like a ray of light. But overall, it was just, there was no redemption. It was nothing about Muriel that made me pull for her. She didn't overcome anything. She caused more problems for the people around her. Rhonda, I know she needs a caretaker, but her life is worse for the wear because of Muriel being around. But I can't let that truly say, okay, this is a 5 wipe or 4 wipe film because I don't like the character of Muriel. it's fine. You know, it was professionally put together. It was written on a paper, and I'm sure that somebody practiced it, and and they put it in the theater, and they made posters and stuff like that. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not a good thing. It's not a story of female empowerment.
Oh, it is.
This is at least, and I'm being kind here, Ash. This is for you, 14-year-old Ash sitting there. This is a 3.5 white movie.
I'll take it. I mean, high praise of, someone spent time on it. I love that. Well, for me, obviously, I enjoyed this film a lot more than you did. Is it a 0 white film? No, I don't think I even thought that at 14, but I think it is a great, great, great movie. I think this is a fantastic story that's realistic in a lot of ways. It's got very realistic characters. We've got a very complex main character, and more so than that, we have very complex secondary characters, which a lot of movies will have like that one like zany secondary character and then the one complex, but in here we get zany and complex kind of all rolled into one. Muriel's mom is fantastic. Her dad is pretty well fleshed out. You get the character of Rhonda, who I think is really, really good. And because of all of those things, I think this winds up being a very multi-layered dark comedy. Again, perfect, no, far better than average. So for me, I'm going to come in at 1.5 wipes. So 1.5 plus 3.5 divided by 2 is exactly average at 2.5 wipes for Muriel's Wedding.
Ash, I respect you. You dialed it back a bit. I think that's highly respectable. So with a final wipe score of 2.5 wipes, that now ties this in the 179 spot with Vacation, Empire Records, Back to the Beach, Little Giants, Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, Ravenous, Taps, and Romper Stomper.
I gotta tell you, that feels right. Like those movies surrounding this one, our system yet again, I think works, even if it's just you and me. I don't know where Gene would have fallen. This is hit or miss for me. Gene either would have like fucking hated this movie or he would have been like, this is the greatest film ever. He would have been nowhere like in the middle. It would have been on the far end of the spectrum.
I strangely think he would have loved it. I strangely think
too.
Because it's dark and it's emotionally walled off.
He would have gotten Muriel.
That'll be interesting to hear. I gotta find out. But,
yeah. And I know he was going to watch it. So I think it'll be interesting to hear his. But even regardless of that, without him, I think our system worked. This feels really appropriate. And I think we did Mary and the movie proud.
And Mary, I do want to thank you as much as I tried to, as much as I ravaged this film. I am glad that I watched it. Because I do have something now to call back upon in future films, good and bad. But thank you very much for the commission.
Well, Big D, next week is a big...
It is.
This is a big week for Gene and I. Tell us, Big D, what are we doing next week?
I'm a little nervous, because
nervous.
I just barely survived the undead in Oklahoma, and now I'm scared because there's more darkness around, and I'm going to need you to protect me with whatever artifacts, holy water, crosses, silver bullets, whatever, some kind of sorcery. You're to protect me because after transferring to a Los Angeles high school, Sarah finds that her telekinetic gift appeals to a group of 3 wannabe witches who happen to be seeking a 4th member for their rituals. Bonnie, Rochelle, and Nancy, like Sarah herself, all have troubled backgrounds which, combined with their nascent powers, lead to dangerous consequences. When a minor spell causes a fellow student to lose her hair, the girls grow power-hungry and power-mad. Commissioned by Jen D. This is a film you guys have been talking about for a while. I know the cover art. I know everybody in it. And I don't know if this is going to be like a really dark tale of witchcraft, or it's going to be more like a witchcraft / Heathers, something light and comical. Is this dark, funny? What is it?
Oh God, it's not funny. It's amazing. It's one of my greatest style influences. Fairuza Balk is like my girl crush of all time. I am so fucking excited, but so incredibly nervous because of how important this film is. I know Gene feels the same way, but you know what? We're going to hail to the watchtowers of the north, and we're going to come together. We're going to chant some shit, and it's going to be amazing.
Okay, I'm excited to put on my wizard hat for this one. This will be something new, but another
You're
dark
not going
tale.
to need a wizard hat. No. It's not that kind of movie. It's going to be great, though. Spoiler alert, it's The Craft.
Sorry about that, folks. It came out in 96, and spoiler alert, it's The Craft.
It's The Craft, and it's so good. Well, thank you so much to Mary for this week. What a fantastic film. And Jindy, I just love you so much because we get to do The Craft next week. It's going to be amazing. But that concludes this week's episode of Shat The Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat The Movies. Email us at host@shatthemovies.com. Support our podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all of that information by visiting our website at shatpod.com. Also, you can check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. You can find all the information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Please be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D Dick Ebert and Gene Lyons, I'm Ash. And be sure to join us on the next podcast as we review the following movie.
To the other kids at St. Bernard Academy, they were the girls who didn't belong.
Whatever you do, stay away from them.
Why?
They're witches.
But after years of being on the outside,
Why'd you lie about me?
I don't want to go out with you again. Please, stop begging. It's pathetic.
4 girls are about to discover the dark side.
You ever heard of invoking the spirit? Black magic. We can make things happen. I mean, this is it. This is real.
Columbia Pictures welcomes you to the witching hour.
Check it out. Her spell is working. Sit.
The Craft.
Girls, watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
There, Muriel runs into Rhonda Eppenstall and Jesus.
Whoa, that's the scariest thing I've ever seen. She's got a flashlight on her face. It looks like the ring.
All right, baby, you just scared the bejesus out of
Oh
me.
my
Oh my
God.
God. I thought I had been attacked by
It's
a
like the
demon.
ring. I think I just had a heart attack.
Oh, Jesus Christ in heaven. On a
She
cracker.
came out of the darkness.
Oh my God. Ellie, Jesus
That's
God.
just-
You just took a fucking year off my life. Hey, next time, can you say something before touching me?
Holy shit. I didn't even see her come out.
What? You forgot? Okay, it's all right.
Did she climb out of a well? Seriously, look
Okay,
at her.
There you go. I love you. You're beautiful and kind and
Holy
wonderful.
shit.
Close the door and be less stealthy next time. Did you see her fucking
No,
jumped?
I just heard you scream.
Love
I
you.
looked up, saw her with a flashlight on her face, her curly hair.
Shit.
I thought you'd watch the VCR tape and you were going to just be dragged in the well.
7 days.
Yeah.
Holy shit. She scared the shit out of me. I'm so sorry. Okay.